Alright, hello everybody, welcome back to Video Game Jukebox. So, we have done just kind of a mix list for the first one. For this one, I have to do a theme, okay? So, um, I've been saying for many years that Final Fantasy Tactics, in my opinion, has the greatest soundtrack of any video game I've ever played. It's not just, the composition and the music itself, it's the context in which you hear the music, and when you hear it, why you hear it, and the feeling it gives you when you're playing through this freaking phenomenal game. So, that being said, I am going to be doing 5 songs from Final Fantasy Tactics for this one. Obviously, we're in the pub, we're looking for work, and there's no propositions up, as we can see, but either way, we had to have the pub music to start off with, because, fits the theme. But, anyway, grab yourself a cup of coffee like I am, grab yourself an adult beverage, or, as Ramza would, a glass of milk. And let's get ready to listen to some awesome Final Fantasy Tactics music. I do want to have sort of a disclaimer here. There will be spoilers. Just me talking about the tracks and when you hear them. So, if you've never played Final Fantasy Tactics before, or if you don't care, or if you don't care, or if you care not to know some of the story points, even if you don't plan on playing it, go ahead and just ignore this video and go to the next one. There's plenty to watch. But if you don't care to be spoiled, or if you've played this game a ungodly amount of times like I have, we're gonna go back in time and listen to this awesome freaking music right now. So let me cue up the first one here, and I'll be right with you. Alright, so we're gonna start with a classic. This one, well, they're all classics, really, but this one is probably the one that you heard the most going through Final Fantasy Tactics, because it not only popped up in story battles, but it also popped up a lot in random battles. So this is Trisection, and you're going to recognize it pretty immediately. Alright, so, again, you hear this one quite a lot, but it's also just a really good, regular battle theme, right? Like, the composition is great. I love how the loops go into each other so well in this game, and, every track. Sometimes, in some games, you'll notice, obviously a track has to loop, because it can't just be as long as it takes you to finish a map or something, right? So, when tracks loop, they don't, a lot of the times in video games, they don't perfectly loop. They do their best to make sure that they kind of make sense the way that they loop, but every now and then you'll get some that are kind of choppy at the end. Every single track in this game loops really well, including this one. So even though you're hearing the same track over and over, it doesn't feel like it. It feels like a different song. Or it feels very organic, the way that it's composed. Regardless of that, yeah, you hear this a lot when you're fighting enemies. I think this is actually the song that plays in the very first battle you're in. At least not the very first battle you're in is the cadets. I don't think it's the first battle in Orbit Monastery that you hear it, but it could be. I could be wrong. But yeah, that's our first one. Trisection, great freaking tune. Let's move on to the next one. All right, this next one is called Night Attack. You hear it in a couple of spots. It's pretty. It's just very. It's pretty repetitive. Actually, this one is, but it's got like a nice bass, and the drums are so cool in this. It pretty much makes the tune. But this is one of the songs you hear. I think you hear it the first time you fight in a swamp, right? And you're fighting against ghosts. I think this is a pretty good one. Check it out. So yeah, that one's really cool. I love the build-up. Like how it's really low here. And actually here, let me pull back to the beginning here. Right, so it's how it's really low here, and you just have like the little drums. And it kind of sets up the beat, the pace it's going to go at. And it just keeps adding instruments as it goes. Makes it louder and louder until it hits that crescendo of the dan 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 dan. You know, it's so cool, and it's. I love how it tends to last. When you first encounter this song in that swamp, it tends to last up until you reach the enemy before it like booms. And about the time it booms is when you're like face to face with them after taking turns and stuff. It's just so cool, man. I love this tune. If I'm not mistaken, this is one of my buddy Jared's favorite tracks from the game. And I like it a lot too. Okay, if I keep listening to this, we're going to be here all day. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, so this one's going to be another battle theme. I'm sorry that most of them are, but... And there's plenty of music that doesn't take place in battle in Final Fantasy Tactics that is just phenomenal and fantastic and just a total work of art. But the ones that are most memorable to me are the ones that take place in battle. Because there's so many, like, a lot of the story points and a lot of the things that happen in battle, right? And you're hearing this music in the background. So, with that in mind, I'm going to play you... Before I play the final one, I'm going to play you this one, which is my favorite track from Final Fantasy Tactics. And holy crap, it's really close to my favorite track from any video game. I still think that Lost Fragments from Chrono Cross probably wins that, but this is so close. This is one of my favorite themes ever. This is called Battle on the Bridge. Let's frickin' go. Okay, so anyway, Battle on the Bridge is one of the most mind-blowing songs I ever heard when I was a kid and I played this game. Oh my god. Especially when you hear, like, a certain battle when you hear it, okay? It's the Zerekale Falls battle, or Zerikeel, or however you want to pronounce it, in the second chapter, when you're with Gafgarion. And you get to that map, and Delita's on the bridge, trying to protect Ovelia, and you're like, oh, I gotta help Delita, that's my friend, I need to figure out what's going on. And, Gafgarion is like, nope, that's not in the contract, blah, 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 blah. Turns out Gafgarion is betraying you and is actually working for Cardinal Draclaw, right? So he turns around and he joins the enemy team and is ready to fight you, and you're like, you son of a bitch! You know, it's such a cool moment. Like, and, you know, and it was a hard fight, really. Because I'm pretty sure if Ovelia faints or dies, whatever, that you lose the battle immediately. And Gafgarion is a Dark Knight. The first time you play, now let's be real, every subsequent playthrough that I've done of this, obviously you steal all of his equipment and turn him into a priest right before this fight, so you can just one-shot him. But, yeah, if you did, the first time you did that, you didn't do it, you freaking just fought Gafgarion, he's like, Night Sword, bitch, and you're just getting your ass kicked. And this is playing the whole time. You've got two fronts happening. You've got Delita as a guest character, Ovelia as a guest character, over here fighting all these knights and shit on one side of the falls. And then you got you and Gafgarion and some other dudes. And it's just a huge, badass battle. And this song is playing, and it just makes it all the more epic. And there is no song in Tactics I like more. And it's so hype when it hits that. It's coming up again. It's just too cool, man. That part right there, like, that's what I was pointing at, is the chills from that part. It just, like, there's all that, again, what Tactics likes to do with that little build-up, and then it's like, boom, hit you right in the face, and it's time to go, dude. Anyway, it's Battle on the Bridge, and that is such a good freaking tune, dude. Such a good tune. But we're gonna move on to the last one on our list for the Final Fantasy Tactics Video Game JUKEBOX. Give me 1 second. Alright, so if this song does not bring you Vietnam flashbacks from Final Fantasy Tactics, I don't know what will. This right here, not only do you hear it when Draclaw first turns into Lucavi, whatever, that's not what this theme is attached to in my memory, and probably a lot of other people's memories. It's the first real big roadblock in Final Fantasy Tactics, and it kind of is the gatekeeper battle to see if you've been paying attention and if you have any idea how to strategize. So I'll talk more about it after we play it, but this song is called The Pervert for whatever reason, but that's this song. So here we go. Brace yourselves, everybody. Alright, so, everybody calm down. Catch your breath from this one, because if you played Final Fantasy Tactics, you know exactly what battle I'm talking about. So, this is a theme that plays when you fight Velius in his real form. And it's Wygriff, who's one of the most tragic characters in the whole game. And, I imagine one of the most hated characters in the whole game, too. So Velius is the biggest skill check in the whole game. If you aren't prepared to fight Velius, you are going to have a tough time. You might not even make it to Velius if you haven't prepared correctly, because Wygriff will just lightning stab the crap out of you and dance on your grave. Wygriff is just, that's who he is, man. He's a badass, he kicks ass, and then even if you beat him, you bring him down to low health, he's like, oh, by the way, I'm a giant freaking goat, ram, killer bullshit thing. And you fight him, and really, again, if you're not prepared, Klops is going to wreck your whole team. The Giga Flares and Dark Holies from his demons are going to wreck your team. You're just going to die. Ryoven's castle is one of the meanest things that I've ever seen in a game like this, because it's a 3-part battle, well, 4-part, really, but you do 2 battles. Pretty sure it's 2, right? You do one outside, and then the next, no. Yeah, okay. So you do the battle outside, and then you go inside. When you get inside, the game asks you if you want to save. So, I mean, you're gonna save, right? But if you're dumb like me, my first run through, you save over your one save file. You're like, I'll just save over my main save file and whatever. And then you end up fighting Wygriff, and Wygriff wrecks you. You didn't level well. You didn't prepare for this. You kind of ran over the fight outside of Ryoven's. And you get in there and you fight Wygriff and Velius, and they just rip you apart, and you have no options. So, he can also just, like, even if you're prepared for, taking the damage from Lightning Stab, beating Wygriff, getting to Velius, and, you got the typical strategy is to get Auto Potion on Ramza, number 1, and sell every level of potion that you have except X potions. Because what Auto Potion does is when you get hit and it triggers, it heals you with the lowest form potion that you have in your inventory. So you sell all your high potions, all your potions. All you got left is X potions. That means you're going to heal for 120 every time you get hit. You really want to have that against Wygriff. Another thing you can do is get 108 gems, also, to avoid this next thing I'm talking about. So, even if you prepare with Auto Potion and you get to Velius, Velius can just choose to just petrify you. Seal never misses. I don't think I've ever seen Seal miss, unless you have an item that protects from petrification. I'm pretty sure it's 108 gems, could be something else. Regardless, he can just, and you're now a perfect sculpture of yourself, and you get to stand there the rest of the frickin' fight. And he can just do that. Again, the demons of Giga Flares and Dark Holies, holy crap. And, yeah, it's just a hard fight. Velius has a lot of HP, he hits like a truck with Klops, and he's got a really, really fast casting time on it. Oh my god, what a fight. And, to top it all off, if you did save, like I did, and you get stuck at Velius, and you really need the levels, and you can't beat him at all, you gotta start all over from the beginning of the game, because you were dumb enough to trap yourself in this castle in a fight you can't win. So yeah. Velius, holy crap. You're one of the scariest freaking bosses that's ever been in a game. Just because of the context of where you're fought. And then even when you get out of there, the next fight, you gotta fight against Celia and Lead. And if you don't have someone with decent move, Rafa's just gonna die. If Rafa dies, you lose the map. So, if you didn't save there, because you were afraid to get stuck like you did against Velius, which you probably save anyway, now you're stuck fighting Elmdor, Celia, and Lead, and they're really freaking hard as well. Like, unless you're prepared. You need, like, Ramza to be a ninja or something at this point. And if you weren't prepared for Velius, you're not going to be prepared for Elmdor and them. It's very... Ryovan Castle is one of the, again, the meanest roadblocks in a game I've ever seen. But regardless of that, that's why I saved this one for last. I needed to share... I feel like I just went through some therapy here, just pointing out how hard it is to fight against Wygriff. But regardless, that's the Final Fantasy Tactics video game jukebox edition. It was very fun. As I've said before, Final Fantasy Tactics has the #1 best soundtrack of a video game I've ever played. This is in my opinion. But either way, I'm really glad I got to do this one. And thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you guys next time for another drink.